everybody, it's Felisa. So this vlog is going to be an entry into Soulful Saturdays, and it's also AVADIM. I wanted to do this partially because I've been talking to a friend of mine who is having some challenges with a certain relationship. And so a lot of her commentary and things that she's been talking about and sharing, and I don't want to go into too much detail because I certainly don't want to betray confidence, but just know that a lot of what she's mentioned to me that she's gone through in this particular relationship, a relationship that's over, may I add, they have a child that they are raising together, that they're trying to co-parent. And a lot of things that she's mentioned to me, that she shared with me, is so familiar that, and I'm having like side conversations with her and trying to keep her encouraged and motivated, but it's just a psychological wear. And so I thought, I would come and I would do this vlog, since it's, Soulful Saturdays, and, I'm in the middle of AVADIM, a video a day in May. Because I think that it's so important to learn and to understand how to protect your energy. That's something that I didn't really recognize or understand. And, being raised in Christendom, we had so many, we had so many like things that were taboo. And so, saying energy always felt like it was a code word for something else, and, not really giving God the praise and the adulation that he deserves, and kind of downplaying some things, and obviously I've come to some different conclusions, but I want to make sure that I'm conveying this in a way that everyone can understand without offense, because that's very important to me, because religion and spirituality is so hugely personal to people, that you can be offended. So please don't be offended by vernacular or the terms that I use. Sometimes I'll use very general, not vague, general terms in order to adequately convey how I feel, so that I'm not isolating or marginalizing other groups who may not have grown up in that certain environment and have no idea what I'm saying. So and I want to make sure that I'm saying that this is not limited to empaths. Empaths are very sensitive and tend to absorb the emotions, and kind of like the vibes that people are giving. And you absorb it in such a way that it affects you. Sometimes people feel those things. Some people can, actually hear those things, and it affects their day-to-day movement. So I want to make sure that I'm saying that this is not necessarily, because someone is identifying as an empath. I identify as intuitive, not an empath. I don't get those messages all the time, but when I do, I hear them loud and clear. And it's taken me, some time and some years to really understand what that truly means. So I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. This affects any and everybody who has been involved with, someone that I'm going to term a narcissist. And I realize that that's a catch-all phrase. It's overused now. Yes, narcissism is a DSM-5 diagnosable mental illness. Yes, I recognize that it's not curable. And yes, I recognize that just because you display narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic behavior, that doesn't make you a narcissist. So I want to make sure that I say that. But I also want to make sure that I say that, even if you're not an empath, it's very possible to be an emotional sponge. And that's just because you're so open and receptive to that person. You are so available to them, and things that they say affect you in real time. There was a situation where, my ex-husband used to say a lot of things to me, and, I truly believe that he was actually and is a narcissistic personality, but he would say things to me that was cruel, and I was very sensitive, and I still remain so. I just have a different way of processing information when I hear it, but some things that he would say would just hit me like, God, it would be like just a sledgehammer, and it would hurt. And I would literally, your mind acts as a tape recorder. And so it plays back those things that you've heard, whether it's negative or positive. But of course, we gravitate towards the negative. And so I would hear that at night. I would hear it in my dreams. Like, I would just be sitting, just like I'm sitting now, and I would hear this negativity, and it would be like an assault, just badgering. And it was exhausting, and I didn't really know how to turn that off. I had to learn how to protect and to shield myself, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But anyway, most of us are about, peace and love. And when we hear, this negativity and this onslaught, it really becomes like, a chink in your armor. So, like in the days of old when knights would wear armor, it didn't cover the full body. There would be spaces where, where someone could infiltrate. And so that's what that's like, for the best of your ability, you're trying to protect your heart and protect your mind or what have you, but those spaces are available. And if someone is really adept and cunning, they can find those spaces and infiltrate and really wound you. And that's what happens when you have words or word curses. In order to be able to be around those kind of people, you have to learn how to protect yourself, and you have to learn how to shield yourself. And I know that sounds really like new agey, and a lot of it does have to do with prayer and protection and things like that. But it also, in my opinion, involves visualization, and it involves manifestation, because even the Bible tells us that what a man think of in his heart, so is he. And so whatever it is that you dwell on, whatever it is that you focus on, you can bring that about, because it's all energy. You are directing either negative or positive thoughts into this one, kind of thing in this process, and you can literally breathe life to that. So if you think that something negative is going to happen, you can literally cause that to happen. We also refer to that as a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is not something that's new. This has been demonstrated time and time again. The problem is that when it manifests as a negative, the first thing that we tell ourselves is that I knew it. I told you so. I knew it. We don't really have an idea that we created this. We don't really have awareness that we aided in this coming to pass. And while I don't think that, you have, abilities to bend spoons and, telekinesis and all that kind of stuff, although I'm not, rejecting it. I don't know, because I can't do it. But I do think that you give extra life and extra energy to things that are detrimental. So here are some tips and tricks that you can use in order to kind of shield yourself, to prevent yourself from being so psychologically sucked in, being tired, being drained. Because I would come in contact with my ex, and I would literally be just like, he would take me to the highest of heights, and I literally would need to go to bed. Like, I'm not going to say that I was depressed, but I just did not have the energy, child. I just not have the energy to just really deal with it in a way that was comprehensive nor productive for me. So, these strategies are actually directly from Psychology Today. Or some of them are from Psychology Today. Some of them are from some other resources and things that I've done myself. So hopefully, these things will resonate with you. First of all, you need distance between yourself and the other person. Sometimes it's not always possible because of co-parenting relationships and things like that. But distance to me is not always a physical kind of thing. It's a mental thing as well. Extracting yourself from relationships. I remember when I separated from my ex-husband, I didn't file for divorce right away. Like, I really didn't. I think I waited maybe like a year, and I know y'all like, well, dang, if he was that bad, why would you wait? Because I was so involved in the church, and I was so prayerful, and I was so hopeful. Even if I was reluctant, my thought was, Lord, I know that if anyone can change him, you can change him. I now refer to those as psychic voodoo prayers, because you can't pray for someone else to change that does not want to change. Like, that is not going anywhere. But that really was my heart's desire, because I didn't want to be single. I didn't want to raise 4 kids by myself. I didn't want to have to be a single parent. Like, I didn't sign up for any of that. And so, my thought was, I really hope that he understands that his family is important. Well, of course he didn't. But a lot of things that he would say to me just in conversation, before we would get off the phone or before, we would part ways, if he came to see the kids or something like that, he would say something like, well, you're still my wife. You're still, like, it was like ownership. It was like this, you belong to me kind of thing. Well, eventually I got tired of hearing that. And that's really the reason why I filed for divorce, because I recognized that it was just more of a chattel kind of thing. It was more of a possession kind of thing. Not really wanting a wife and kids because he appreciated a wife and kids, just because it belonged to him. So I started to distance myself psychologically, even though I couldn't distance myself physically. But in my mind, I was creating that separation. If you think that you're picking up someone else's energy, you need to start to concentrate on a way of just being. That includes slow breathing. It includes centering. It includes redirection, refocusing, connecting to yourself, and eliminating thoughts of that other person. Because the more you focus on him or her, the more life you give to it, the more energy you give to it, and the stronger that it becomes. Like, what is that it's not a superhero. But just think about Freddy Krueger. Okay, he was like one of my favorites. But just think about him. Like, all of his energy came from the dreams of these kids that he was able to terrorize, right? And there was a time when Nancy, his original nemesis, basically said, I don't believe in you. You're not real. And it took away his power. It took away his ability to be able to attack. And he literally was like, what? Like, this is not a thing. But it is a thing, because all of that was energy. All of that was feeding off of her terror. It was feeding off of her fear. It was feeding off of her anxiety, all of the negative kinds of things. And it was giving it life. So once you cut off the life source, your way of thinking, your way of processing it, sometimes, and it's not a matter of delusion. I want you to understand this. It's not a matter of, pretending like it's not what it is. It's a matter of saying, you know what, this doesn't affect me. This person is going to be crazy over here regardless as to what I do. So this is not going to affect me. I refuse to allow it to affect me. Excuse me. So you need to go on with that nonsense. Focus on the positive aspects. Focus on love. Focus on healing. Focus on positivity. And it definitely will. It's definitely a challenge, because the negativity, we're wired for that as human beings, like the anxiety and the what's wrong and the what can we do kind of things. And the retraining, even when you have those thoughts of negativity, just like, nope. Not going to focus on that. I'm focusing on the good things. I'm focusing on, the healthy things. I'm focusing on, this is what I need to be. Also set healthy limits and boundaries. Like, you don't have to be available 24/7. Just because your ex-husband, whatever, texts you and wants to do this, that, and third. I used to have business hours. I'm not kidding. Like, my phone was not available after 9 p.m. And I made sure that my ex-husband knew this. Like, don't text me after 9 p.m. If he did, I would leave it. I see it. But I'm not about to respond to that. I'm not getting ready to be drawn into this petty back and forth in the middle of the night so I can be all upset before I go to bed. And, it just causes me to toss and turn. No, I see it. It's fine. And if at some point, it started to go off because he would send text after text after text, I would turn the ringer off. All my kids were in the house safe. It was nothing that I needed to know until the next morning. I would deal with it in the brightness of the new day. I think it's important to set those boundaries. Make sure that you're setting those boundaries. Make sure that you're setting healthy kind of limits. Make sure that you control how often you are spending listening to stressful people. Learn how to say no. Make sure that they understand those limits and those boundaries. What they're going to do? Like, they just continuously talk to themselves. Then the next thing is, and I told my girlfriend this afternoon, like, you have to start to visualize protection all around you, whether it's a white light, whether it's, a wall, whether it's, just the Holy Spirit and protection, whatever that means to you. Start to visualize that protection around you and around your children, and don't let anything infiltrate that. A practical form of protection many people use, according to this article, let me read it to you, is visualizing an envelope of white light around your entire body. or with extremely toxic people, visualize a fierce black jaguar patrolling and protecting your energy field to keep out intruders. Though that's just two examples. Whatever works for you, however you visualize that in your mind's eye. To set up, for me, it was a wall, like literally a wall. I would build it around myself from the ground up. I don't know how else you build a wall except from the ground up. That was stupid. But visualize a wall, and I would brick by brick go around myself. Protection, 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 protection. And just really start to pray prayers. I also would ask the Holy Spirit to send his angels to protect me and my children, to spread their wings around us, to keep us safe from harm and hurt, and to give us peace. I would pray that every time I would think about my children, every time I thought about my ex, just in times of not just crisis, but just in times of passive thinking, because it was important to kind of reinforce that for myself, not because I didn't believe, but because saying it reinforces it. Saying it allows me to visualize it, and that visualization, brings about manifestation. Then, there's also, if they're asking too much of you, say no. Like, this is not what we're doing. Don't feel like you have to acquiesce. Don't feel like you have to go along with something that is causing you discomfort or pain or inconvenience. Like, no. Minimize the time that you're going to interact with someone. The time, like I said, I had a cutoff time at night, but you don't have to keep going back and forth. Like, one of my famous things of saying online is, I'm not about to fine box with you. I said what I said. I think that that's important. But at the end of all of the days, you have to make sure that you're in a place where you are taking charge of your spiritual self, that you are comfortable with the people that you've allowed in your inner sanctum. And if you are not, very politely give them an eviction notice. Tell them to get out. You do not have to continue to entertain these people. You don't have to. I don't care who they are. I don't care how many kids you have by them, because your sanity matters. Now listen to me, ladies. I'm not even remotely suggesting that you should keep children away from their parents, that you should not let them see them, not let them talk to them. Not at all. But I do think that you have a right to control the type and the amount of access they have to you. If they start talking to you all sideways and crazy, cut that off. You don't have to listen to that. You don't have to stand and be abused. Redirect the conversation. Okay, I heard you, but when are you planning on seeing X, Y, and Z? Or when are you planning on doing this, that, and the third? Or what is it that you need from me? Because a narcissist typically needs a punching bag. And part of their satisfaction is that they got an emotional response from you. Don't give that to them. Stop giving that to them, because once they don't have it, they are like a fish out of water. They have no idea what to do. Now, they're going to continue to try it, but at every juncture, block them. Block them. And start to learn how to say things like, okay, well, why don't you, I see that this conversation is pretty difficult for you, so why don't you give me a call back when you want to talk about the children, or when you talk about when you want to get them, or whatever, and hang up. Period. That's it, and that's all. When they call you back, redirect the conversation. Stop letting them talk about your marriage. Stop letting them talk about, what a failure you are and all this kind of thing, and continuously dump on you. No. Train them how to treat you. Train them how to talk to you. Train them, when they call you, this is what we talk about, no more, no less, or else you're going to get the click. Period. I'm Felisa. I hope that this helped you. I know that this was, a bit fast. I try and keep these videos brief. But this is certainly something that I have had to learn in my years and in my practice. And it's not been easy. There will be some days that are better than others. And I'm not going to lie to you. It is extremely hurtful and extremely difficult when you hear someone that you once loved and once professed to love you speak to you with such vitriol and such animus. It's hard. But the more that you protect yourself and the more that you understand that that has nothing to do with you, this is all them, the easier it becomes. I will talk to y'all later on. I love y'all. And to my May babies who are Tauruses, what's up? Talk to y'all later on.